So homework out of the way, guys. Please support this channel if you can, however means, super chats, channel memberships, or just liking and subbing, and please give my other channels a chance. I've got a lot of stuff on the way. Some stuff is already in progress. Some stuff has just been put up on cults, fandoms, language, and other things. But I also do Game of Thrones, Dune, so look out for those things. So give what you can and contribute what you can. Don't worry, it's a lot of great stuff. I don't know how many. I've lost count of how many videos I have for the basic channel membership. I will put stuff up for the upper tiers. But let us get to the grift and the Moonay. And what is a grift? How does grift work? Well, I will give Reese this, that I think with her, because there's a big brew up now with Knife Hoarder and whether his videos are doing more good than bad. Well, let me get the big thing out of the way, that Reese is threatening to put people in jail. So she's contacting the police. I don't think Knife Hoarder short story did break the law. I will say he is getting more and more extreme, which is his right and privilege as long as you're not breaking the terms of services. But I think he may be in the danger zone. But that's his channel. He's his own man. So I guess it's an interesting question. What are we judging Reese for? I guess the harshest thing is that Reese was hooked up with Brett, who is a criminal guilty of almost every imaginable crime: robbery, theft, con artist, fraud, and even, yes, predator crimes. So when you reach that level of insanity, is it right to judge Reese for this? Now, Reese is still lying because she did put out a video months ago exposing Scoville, but then has walked it back and revised a lot of things. So when she put out the video exposing Scoville as the con artist he is, she was panicking, saying, guys, I'm in danger. Guys, oh, Reese is in danger. And then literally the next day saying, guys, I'm okay. Nothing's going to happen. That's pretty weird. Like, why the shit? Well, see, what happened is she played a very distorted version of the audio. The audio itself was tampered with. Now, most of it can be believed. It's fine. It does show Scoville is, pretty evil, but it cut out bits and pieces that made her look bad. And it clearly implied she wasn't in fear at all. In fact, she repeatedly says, guys, I'm really tough. I'm one tough woman. I'll give Scientology this. They trained me to be really tough, and I am super tough. So a super tough woman thought she was in danger, but she put out the video, said, I had to, guys. I had to save the women's. In this community, I'm pro-women's. I protect my women's, even though she has a record of doxing, attacking, victimizing women's. Figure that one out. But I will agree with her that we need to be careful that there's capital G grift, lowercase g grift. She's still a grifter, but I would concede she's more low-class grifter in more than one sense. Scoville is more high-class grifter, not in the fact that he has class or any taste or civility, but his criminality is much more blatant and potentially much more dangerous. Oh, just to one final note on Scoville, we're moving on to another target, another grifter. Um, he's feeling sorry for himself because, guys, he's hurting. His back and head are hurting. Well, again, I don't push religion on this channel either way. I try to stay neutral on those things, but thank God, karma's real, guys. Apparently, if you do a lot of evil in your life, you may physically pay a price. So I'm shedding no tears. And by the way, the guy does seem genuinely sick, old. I'm getting up there. I'm getting older. I don't care. C'est la vie. Even with Mike Rinder, I can work up some compassion, despite Michael's very iffy record. However, Scoville, and by the way, there is evidence that Rinder may have been a bit of a pro-predator guy. Even he still manages to be better than Scoville. That's how bad Scoville is. So, no tears for you, Scoville. Sorry. Now let's move on to a more tricky case, because, I'm mixed on Enri. He puts himself out as a good activist. He does do some good work. He does seem more independent and free. He has been victimized. DOA is going after him, trying to destroy his channel. But two things can be true, guys. Even if you're in the lower G grift, you can call it out. Some people are calling me a grifter. I would think, even as a grifter goes, I fall into the literal minimal point grifter that, well, you haven't always told us the truth. And what about this? What about that? Well, I explained in another video. Yeah, I did self-censorship because I had to, because my channel had 2 copyright strikes. So if I put myself too much out as a brave, edgy boy, then you can call that out. I'm not claiming to be a hero, not claiming to be totally innocent, not claiming I can tell the whole truth the whole time. I have to protect some people because some people have shared confidential information, so I have to be careful with some things. I'm not comfortable with that, but it is what it is. So Enri's pushing against the DOA lies and censorship. Okay, I'm on board for that, but apparently he may have gone too far. This is more of a question mark grift. So Kelly, an activist who's hooked up with Nora, a big grifter, and apparently Kelly's okay with that, which is her right. I think Kelly's a serious activist. I don't agree with her. I don't like her because she put out a video which was pro-feminist. That's fine. I don't mind that. But the way she worded it was like, went into the anti-male category. And I'm like, okay, we hate, don't trust men because, oh, Nora's a great queer activist. No, she's not a great queer activist. So Kelly is great. She exposed Aaron. She's very tough on some parts of SPTV. Great. But then with Nora, yeah, we're not going to call out that grift. But again, I think Nora was being good and sincere and platforming Kelly and other local activists. So I can't join her now because I think she's a little too hateful, but c'est la vie. But so Kelly was a little outraged that Enri was hinting in a live stream that some activists are not active enough for him. And he was clearly implying that she and others need to step up and do more because now he's the head honcho. He's the good revolutionary leader. We found our Che Guevara, and he's throwing shade at the women and female activists, saying, "I think you're all a little lazy here, asking for money, but not ain't doing nothing." And Kelly was a little angry at this shade and said, "Yeah, shut up. I do the activism when I want to. Stop barking orders." Again, this is a question mark, guys. It seems both sides have a point. Now, I do think Kelly is correct that Enri aiming his anger at her and other activists doesn't add up, didn't make any sense. Again, I don't agree with these people on everything, but I think they're sincere. I think their alliances and associations are questionable, but I'm not stupid. I think those can be questioned, but the person might be of sincere goodwill, whether it's Shannon in Chicago, Crazy Love, so on and so forth. I think these people are sincere. I don't agree with them on everything, but I think they're sincere people. And let me forewarn, these activists do not all agree with one another. I'm getting very contradictory information on who's worse, who's better, who is more consistent, right? Whether Sal or Korn or whoever. It is a huge mess. I think these are all sincere people, but I would forewarn their positions can be too controversial. So I'm trying to be as nice and fair to everyone, but there will be disagreements in any movement. And that's where we stand. So I agree with Kelly, the way Enri articulated his position could have been better or nicer. And I also agree he doesn't have a leg to stand on. It is a grift. You're asking money for the activism, and DOA, again, allegedly exposed some shenanigans. So he's asking money for a court case. He beat the case, but DOA is like, no, you're not really telling the truth about how the case worked. And Enri's like, no, 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 you don't understand. They screwed up. The info on the website isn't right. It happens. I agree that does happen. Legal cases in America, especially, are very complicated, and the system is in a lot of chaos because people are constantly searching for money. The cops, the judges. It's a very money-based system, and things will happen. So both sides are correct, but I am a little alarmed with Kelly's fandom, which seems to be a lot of women going girl power. Woof woof, girls get it done. Hey, women can support women. I'm all for that. And if women even want to exclude men from their groups or associations, that is totally legit. No issue there. I'm just concerned with the thought control because, like, she's okay with Nora and her grifting, but I guess Nora is just bad researcher. She makes mistakes, guys, but she's beautiful woman and queer, so we need to embrace her stupidity. Okay, so that seems like a massive hypocrisy on Kelly's part. But again, I think they were. I even think Nora was sincere. I don't think they were trying to panic people unnecessarily. But what happened is 2 girls allegedly were escaping Scientology. Turned out it wasn't 2 women or even 2 girls. It was 1 girl. One woman apparently just lives nearby the blue building. That's it. She wasn't a victim or anything. But then this one girl, who was a young girl, who was Hispanic, and they assumed she was running away from Scientology. Apparently, this is true, her father is in Scientology. It seems like her father and her got into a fight, they got into a screaming match, and she was running away from him. And then the security guards brought her back to her family. So it's basically just a big question mark. It could be she's being abused. It could be. I don't want to even say the word. We don't know. I mean, her father's in a cult. That's very alarming. On the other hand, yeah, fathers and daughters screaming at each other, even in public places, and running away from one another. That's normal. That is super normal. That happens all the time. But it's in the context of Scientology, so it's a little weird and alarming. So I think Kelly did the right thing, getting people alerted, but we really don't know. So it just seems hypocrisies all around. But I do think Kelly's not a grifter. I think she's being sincere. And there are just logistical things where Enri wants people in this place and that place in California. California is huge, guys. So people may not be able to show up at meetings. It's just too costly. It's just too costly. So yeah, I think this is just a tragic misunderstanding. But I will agree that Henry's a bit of a grifter, but he's better than Nora. So it just seems both sides are playing favorites here. But it seems Henry beat the case. It's a legitimate win for the movement. I don't agree with him on everything. It just seems a lot of confusion. I will agree, Enri, the way he's talking to the women is coming off sexist and domineering. On the other hand, I think Kelly's too woke and too feminist for my blood, targeting all the men's apparently, and defaulting that let's go with the gay women and the women and just even witch women. Yeah, we're going to embrace queer witch women too. I'm like, huh? It's a bit of a mess. I'm going to leave the screenshots for you guys to decide. I think this is just a big mess, a bit of a misunderstanding on both sides. But I do agree Henry's doing a little bit of a grift. But again, you can have a grift even when no money exchanges hands. Grifts can just be being very deceptive and trying to gain power and popularity. And apparently, Henry wants to be the new leader of, I don't know what to call it anymore. It's definitely not anti Scientology. I guess it's just Nora's pseudo SPTV, whatever it is. Have at it, Enri. You try to control these crazy woke women and their questionable hypocrisy. But I do think it's hypocritical for Kelly to be upset about this. But many other grifters don't upset her. So both sides need to work on their logics. Because Enri, especially, because he's supposed to be an engineering smart bro, and some of the logic to me is not holding up. But you decide for yourself, guys. I'm leaving the screenshots. Debate, if you will. But I will agree with Marissa on one final point that, yeah, grifting is a social construct. We'll be debating, I think, forever. What exactly is a grift? That doesn't excuse her behavior or actions, but she's right. What exactly is a grift, guys? Yeah, hard to define, but we can get boundaries.